Hey there, friend. Welcome to Create Conversations. This podcast is designed to connect you with entrepreneurs and creatives from across the country and sometimes around the world. When I was first starting my business, I really didn't have that sense of community to connect with, to bounce ideas off of, to really know that I'm going the right direction or was doing something right. That's why I created this podcast, to give you that community in hopes that it can inspire you and drive you forward through your entrepreneurial journey. So without further ado, let's create some conversations. Hey there, friends. Thank you so much for tuning in to do today's podcast. Today, I am here with my best friend, editor, producer, roommate, and boyfriend, Brad. And today we are going to be talking about what to focus on when you have so many passions. So hi, hello. Thank you for making the long commute to be on this podcast.
It was so difficult to travel from one side of the apartment to the other. I'm really glad I didn't get stuck in traffic or something like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you did.
Yeah, it was so difficult. Like waking up this morning, I just really wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get into the office area to be able to film this. But I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm really glad I'm here.
I'm glad you're here too. So why don't you tell us all a little bit about yourself and what you do? Not that I don't already know that.
Right. Yeah, so like Vanessa said, my name's Brad. I edit these podcasts, so thank you for listening. I'm also the producer, but also in addition to that, I'm also a musician. I'm a drummer, and I also write music. I play bass, I play piano, but also during the day, I work at Disney. I'm a cast member over at Walt Disney World in Florida.
So that's kind of the big reason why we moved here. Kind of a side note, I don't like to share a lot about us on social media just because we both like to keep our relationship a little bit private. But that was kind of the main reason why we came down here. So.
Right.
And we also wanted to live close to Disney because why not?
And we both love Disney so much.
Yeah,
so
we could talk about Disney for hours.
Oh, yeah.
So, what are your different passions that you have, since that is the topic that we're talking about today?
So I've really, to narrow it down to two main sort of passions that I have are my love for music and my love for Disney. But within both of those topics, there's a lot that I love. For instance, in the music side of things, I've been a drummer now for 17 years. I started when I was 7 years old. And from there, I went on to play drums throughout middle school, high school, all the way through college. I went to school at Indiana University at the Jacobs School of Music for a music performance degree, playing drum set with an emphasis in jazz studies. Even though I really do consider myself more of a pop and rock drummer, I really do play any style of music and enjoy it. Also, in addition to that, I write music. I've been writing music now maybe about 7 years. Yeah. At the beginning, I really didn't take it as seriously, but it turned into something that I just love doing. And really, by the time I got into college, it became one of my favorite things to do in music. And then also from there, being a songwriter, it made me want to learn a lot of different instruments. And so in addition to that, I play piano and I play bass. Even though I'm currently teaching myself guitar, I wouldn't really call myself much of a guitar player at the moment, but it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
And then on the Disney side of things, I've been a Disney fan for what seems like forever. And
aren't we all? We're 90s kids, so we grew up on like the classic Disney classic Disney movies we know.
Right. That's true. But as I got older, I really started to enjoy learning more about the theme parks and learning more about the rides and learning the history of the theme parks. And so there's a lot of Disney, even aside from the movies, that I love. And from there, it always made me eventually want to do something with Disney. I wasn't really sure what exactly I wanted to do, but I guess if anything, to go to more of the Disney side, really mentioning why we ended up in Florida, we were living in Nashville, and I ended up deciding to apply for a position that I saw for Disney. Not expecting too much from it. I just thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? I should apply for this. It's coming up to about a year from when we lived in Nashville, so it kind of seemed like if we were going to move, it was the right time. And I ended up applying for it and ended up getting the job, and it was crazy, but it's definitely something that I enjoy, but at the same time, it was definitely a great way to be able to get into the company to maybe do something else in the future.
Right. That move was crazy, and the fact that how quickly that all happened, with like you're in the process of getting the job like within 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, and really from the beginning, I think I applied for the job. It was like middle of August, I think it was. Well, it might have been early. It was end or the last couple months have just it's flown by, but at the same time, there's been so much that has happened that it's made me really lose track of the time.
Right.
But also at the same time, everything really did happen very, very fast. It was around the time, early September, that we kind of knew for sure that this was going to happen.
Yeah.
It was just really finding out logistically how we were going to make this move happen, but it all happened to work out. We've been here now really about a month.
Yeah, about a month from when we're recording this, about a month,
Yeah, but that just so happened to really work out with everything for you, which was really important.
Yeah.
But especially too, getting the job with Disney was definitely something that really was like, hey, we might actually get to move to Florida. Because in all honesty, it was actually kind of a dream of ours in a way to be able to move down to Florida and live close to Disney just because we love it so much.
Right. Which is going back to all the passions, but a little thing I wanted to touch on is just funny hearing you say how long you've been drumming, because fun fact, we went to the same elementary school, lived in the same neighborhood. Our parents knew each other from church. Like we've known of each other for so long. So I actually watched Brad in the talent show drum with his band. So it's funny to think about that because I vividly remember that.
Yeah, I was 11 years old when I did that. It was my 5th grade year.
Yeah, and you guys did Wipeout, right?
Yeah, we played Wipeout as slow as you could possibly play it because I was 11. And
you're a 5th grader. That's pretty good for a 5th grader.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, looking back at that, it was fun. It was fun doing that because that was like the first, like, funny enough, thinking about it, it was the first time I played music in front of like hundreds of people technically.
Was that hundreds?
There was like 700 people I think who went to our elementary school.
Between
because it was kindergarten through 5th grade.
Because they did have us have like all the classes sit in to perform. Because I performed in the talent show
when I was in 3rd grade.
Yeah, so was that the year before or 2 years?
It was 2 years before.
2 years before. So I performed baton and did a routine I choreographed myself. So it's like hard for me to think about it because when I did baton, I was so used to competing in front of judges, and that was all that I was worried about, so it really didn't matter.
Yeah, so you just did it for fun.
Yeah, I just did it, and I only paid attention to the judges because that's what you had to do.
Right.
So now thinking about it, I'm like, wow, I performed in front of a lot of people as a young 5th grader.
Yeah, but I forgot, you reminded me of this, that I had to do that performance twice.
Yeah,
because we did it for the school and then we did it for parents and
family. Yeah.
So that's weird. I actually did not realize that until now that was the first time I played in front of like hundreds of people.
So then my sister saw it twice.
As an 11-year-old.
Yeah, my sister then probably saw it twice.
Yeah.
Because I only saw it once because I wasn't at that school anymore.
Yeah.
Because my parents remember it.
Yeah.
They're like, Brad was so good. He drummed Wipeout. Yeah. So, steering our topic back, how did you come to the conclusion of what to pursue? Because you've talked about music, you went to school for music, that's kind of why we moved to Nashville, and then you took the leap of faith to go into Disney. So what kind of helped you make that roadmap?
To be honest, it was a long process.
Mm-hmm.
It was a long process because in reality, it was two things that I love so much, and it's when you have a lot of things that you really love doing, you don't want to give up any of that. But over time, through my college experience, the 4 years really changed my thought process a lot on what I really wanted to do and what I really wanted to do for music, what I wanted to do for anything for Disney, just in general, what I thought the right career path would be for me, even to the point during college. And another side of music that I love too, that I forgot to mention, I love all the drum equipment side of things too. Being a drummer and being someone who's so interested in designing, I ended up having an internship in 2017 at Pearl Drums, which is one of the largest drum manufacturer in the world. And I was really, really honored to be able to spend an entire summer working with that incredible organization and being able to see firsthand the process that really goes into making the equipment that drummers like I use. I love Pearl, and it's always been my favorite company. And to be able to go into that and see that was incredible. But that just showed me another side of the industry. And I mean industry is the music industry as a whole, that I loved. So when it came down to it, it's great I found that, but at the same time it was like, oh wow, this is another thing in addition that I love to do.
Right.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, I feel very, very lucky that I have a lot of things that I love to do. But narrowing it down and getting to a point where it's like, okay, this should be my main career, this should still be something I do, kind of comparing, looking at every single little detail. Once you look at all the things kind of in between, and I mean that as in, what parts of the main topic do you love? Like, for example, like for me, there's certain areas of music that I love more than others. So for example, I love songwriting so much, and that's something that I've grown to really love so much. And so that's become one of the main areas that I really focus on. And finding within everything the things that you really, really love, you'll be able to narrow down exactly what you really want to do. And it doesn't mean you have to say, oh, I love this and I completely hate this.
Right.
I mean, there's definitely some room to look at and to really think about, you know, I really still love this thing. And who knows, maybe this will be one of the main things I want to do 2-3 years from now. And because that definitely happened for me. It was going from a point where I entered college really focusing on just being a drummer, to the point where I left college where my focus became being a musician, which is definitely more of a generalized area of that, instead of just focusing yourself on one thing, but going with the main topic, finding exactly what you really want to do. It all really goes down to, what do you really, really enjoy? What are you very, very happy doing? And if something doesn't make you as happy as something else, obviously we all need to do things in life that we really don't want to do at times to be able to get us to the place that we want to get to. I really wanted to make sure that I started doing the things that I really, really loved. And songwriting is definitely one of those. Something with Disney, which I still, at the moment, to be perfectly honest, don't have that completely figured out yet. I just love the company so much and want to be a part of it in a way.
You're just happy to get your foot in the door.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And to be really, really honest, my thought process right now is, I mean, the ultimate dream for me is if I could do something with songwriting with Disney, if I could do something with recording with Disney, either as a drummer or a musician, or also a big dream of mine is to be an Imagineer, coming up with concepts and designs for new rides in the parks. And that's something that's always been a dream of mine, at least in the last over 10 years. Once I kind of found out, I'm like, oh yeah, there's people who actually do that.
Right.
That became a dream of mine.
I wonder if you could be like a historian for like Disney, because ask him anything about any ride, like the dates of any renovation, what exactly they did, what date it was. Like,
a lot of studying.
Like literally, you could win at any trivia for Disney rides. It's true.
Possibly.
It's true.
Maybe there's a lot of people who really know a lot.
That's true.
There's a lot of people.
So, do you think because you went from saying like I'm a drummer to I'm a musician, a lot of people, at least in like my realm of being an entrepreneur, is something that you need to be very specialized, because people don't want to hire a photographer who does all the things. They'd rather have someone who knows what they're doing in one area, because they're going to be the pros, they're going to be the specialist. So like you don't go to a general doctor for something for cancer. Like they will refer you to the specialist. Do you feel like as a musician that's something, like, does that matter as much, or is it better that you know more?
I would honestly say yes and no, for completely different reasons. The part of it where I would say yes, you should be specialized in something is you would at least have something that is a very strong point of what you're doing. So for example, for me, drumming, I would say, is my strongest point. Probably songwriting is also my strongest point. I can play piano and I can play bass, and I can do both of those completely by ear. That's actually how I learned both instruments. I've never really had specific lessons. I took a few classes in college for piano, but it's not like I had ever had one-on-one piano lessons with anybody, or especially the same thing for bass. For bass, I've never had a class. I've never had any sort of lessons or anything for that. But I, at least with drumming and for songwriting, for drumming, I started lessons at age 9 and really continued lessons all the way up until I graduated college, which was in 2018. So I've had a lot of training on that instrument. So at least that's kind of my specialized area that I know I have knowledge on. I know I'd be able to play drums in any sort of situation I'm in for the most part, and be able to excel in it. I can't really say the same thing for piano and bass, but as it comes to songwriting, it's necessary to be able to do that. And that actually kind of gets into the point why I'm saying no, is because I feel like the more you know, the better well-rounded you'll be as a musician, and especially as someone who grew up originally just playing drums, being able to learn a melodic instrument on the music side. This is talking more. I mean, music and everything. Learning piano and learning bass really taught me, it improved my hearing to be able to hear things more. And I have something, I don't mention it too often. I have this music ability called perfect pitch, and what it is, if I can explain it in kind of a general term, is if you were to go over to a piano or any instrument and play a note or a chord, I can tell you what that is without looking at it. And
that's taken training from you.
It's taken a bit of training to realize it, but you've always
could pinpoint a note, not necessarily that you can name it, but you could pinpoint it. You could say that that's a thing.
I always was able to do that even from an early age, but now, like, I if you're going to play something on a piano, I know exactly what it is by ear.
Got it.
And that, I didn't figure that out. I only figured that out maybe about 7 years ago.
Okay.
And actually, funny enough, it was the same year I started songwriting. And so after I figured that out, I thought, well, maybe I could write some stuff. And I tried, and that was definitely a work in progress, and I've definitely improved over the years. It didn't just happen overnight.
Right.
And at the same time, if I can talk a little bit about songwriting then, it's really interesting because I almost look at songwriting as a 24-hour job in a weird way, because you never know when you're going to have an idea. You never know what's going to happen. I could maybe not write a song for months, or I could have a lot of songs in a week, staying up until even 5 a.m. writing music.
Yep. You've done that.
which you know about.
I've experienced you coming back to bed, or like there was a time when we lived in Nashville that you came back to bed and I woke up for my alarm an hour later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot. So that's really interesting, just in the sense of like an entrepreneur, we're told over and over that you should be very specialized. Like there was a time that it's like, oh, you need to do all the things, and now it's you need to be very specialized. But I've seen different people in specifically the photography realm that they try to separate those experiences that they still offer, like weddings and seniors and families, like everyone typically does as a photographer. They just try to make those very individualized experiences so they look separate and specialized, but really they still cover all those things. But yeah, like it's kind of difficult because on the one hand you do see the benefit of being specialized. Like you're not going to go to a generalized doctor to be diagnosed for cancer. You're going to go to a cancer specialist or whoever that specialist is. You want to have the expert tell you, who's studied that all their life, versus then also knowing a lot of things and being well versed in a lot of things can help educate you in those specialized areas.
Right. And I also think too, something about knowing about a lot of different things and kind of having experience in different areas is you never know when trends are going to change. You never know if something that you've been working on might eventually be the trend or however you would classify that. I can only speak on a music standpoint as it comes to this, since I'm a musician. But there are definitely things, I mean, this goes into real technical aspect of the drums. So there's a certain way of tuning, I'll just say it like this just to make it really easy so I can talk about it fast. There's a certain way if you tune the drums without so there's these things called drum heads on the drums if you're not a drummer or not a musician. It's the plastic things on the top and bottom of the drums that you hit.
Yes.
And it produces a sound. There's a trend in the industry now where if you take the bottom drum heads off of some of the drums, the sound is really in style at the moment. Whereas like I was doing that like 8 years ago, to be honest, but it's because I'm such a big fan of Phil Collins, and Phil Collins was doing that like back in the 70s and the 80s. So he was already doing that, but in a way it's like, oh, I feel like this is going to come back someday. And I always had that feeling. And just around 2 years ago, it started coming back.
Right.
And so that's just one little funny example of that happening. But it was because I was a fan of things that had happened in the past. So saying that too, I would say always try to learn the history of whatever you're doing, because you never know when something from the past may come back.
Yeah, because in the photography realm, you definitely see more people doing digital and film now. Whereas when I went to school, I was trained in film. Like that was a part of my degree, that I had to learn how to develop everything, and that's how I learned to use an actual camera, which is probably the hardest thing in the world because I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know what the aperture was at. I didn't know what it looked like until I spent hours developing it and going, oh, that was bad. I have to go redo it now, and it's 3 days later. So it's you definitely take that for granted in the digital space. But yeah, like you definitely see people do digital and film so then they can take a shot with their digital camera and know the settings to then set their film camera at, so then they don't have to mess around with wasting film, because it's expensive. There's not a lot of places that develop that film to that degree. Anyway, totally sidetracking, but getting back. So we did talk how it's like good and bad for yes and no to like specialize, but I'm just going to ask this, but do you think it's important for entrepreneurs in general, to specialize, or to not specialize, to pursue only one passion? Or do you think that they should just pursue it all and find things that they find the points that they really enjoy in all the things?
I think I'll say this.
Okay.
at some point in time, you should try to pursue them all, because you don't want to ask yourself eventually in the future, what would have happened had I done this?
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to go through your life and be able to at least attempt every little thing you want to do, you won't end it having questions.
Yeah.
And so, to be honest, there is something about specializing in something, because it's something that you can really feel confident in, feeling like you're a pro. Mm-hmm. And something you'll be able to answer questions for, and something you'll be able to work at and do very, very well and excel in. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, and maybe it's because of me being a musician, mm-hmm. I never feel like it's bad to try new things. Mm-hmm. And it's never bad to feel like, well, your life is only limited to do one thing. You should be able to do as many different things as you want to do. Mm-hmm. But again, going back to before, it's finding those things that you really, really love. Mm-hmm. And when you find those things that you love, I think you'll excel even more, because it'll show that you enjoy what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And that enjoyment will come through within all that.
Right. So what advice would you give someone who's facing a similar struggle with all the passions they want to pursue, and kind of not knowing where to go, but knowing that in whatever space they're in, it's saying you should specialize?
I would say first to take your time. Mm-hmm. Don't feel like you have to ever rush anything so much. You need money to live. You need a job. You need to do all of that. Mm-hmm. The things that are necessary to be able to live. Mm-hmm. But don't feel like you need to do everything just right away. Really take the time and plan out what you want to do. Don't feel like everything has to happen right away. Mm-hmm. Because if you try to do multiple things at the same time, it's only going to stress you out.
Right. And you're not going to put enough love to the things that do need it.
Right.
And the enough attention. Like something I talked to with Dakota a couple of episodes back is about having a senior experience and how she has a senior rep team. If you haven't listened to that episode, make sure you go listen to it. It's for everyone, not just photographers. And she was talking about how when she started her senior rep team at first, she's just like, oh, I'm going to do this. It's going to be great. And she didn't realize how much work and time and effort went into it. And it didn't go as well as she hoped it would, which now her senior rep team experience is amazing and phenomenal, because she had that realization that she needs to put all this time and effort into it. And I think that's with anything, that you really need to put that designated time and effort into it while still looking to all your options and possibilities, but give yourself that patience and time to really focus on the things that really need to be focused on.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Sorry, I kind of stole your thunder.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. But no, really going along with what you said, I completely agree. That really is honestly the best answer, to be honest. And I don't think I could say it better than that. Mm-hmm. That really kind of goes along with everything, is really, you need to put love into what you really want to do, because it'll show through. Mm-hmm. That you really love what you're doing. But that's never to say give up on anything else.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if it's something that you really, really love doing, mm-hmm. never give up on it. Mm-hmm. Because it will work out.
Yeah.
It may take a while. Mm-hmm. It might not happen right away, but it will work out.
Mm-hmm. Right.
In some form. And who knows, through your life you may, we all learn more mm-hmm. going through life. It may change in the future. And then in the future, you'll really be able to see, okay, maybe this happened this way, mm-hmm. so that this was supposed to work out this way, and now I'm at my quote-unquote happiest.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you could definitely look at our journey. I mean, not a lot of people know about how we got from where we were living separately to then Nashville to here, but a lot of things fell into place while we were like while I was working after college, when you graduated, and then when we moved in together to Nashville and then here, a lot of things fell into place along the way, a certain way for us to get here a lot sooner than we ever expected to move to Florida.
Oh, yeah. I was not expecting to move to Florida until later down the road.
Yeah.
But, you know, I believe everything does happen for a reason. Even if it's something that's bad, it'll lead to something that's good. And kind of going along with that too, I mean, I believe there's no such thing as a failure. And it's taken me a while to learn that. There were definitely a lot of years where I felt situations where, oh, I failed.
Yeah.
But I've grown to know it's a learning experience. And, you know, that's a whole other topic.
Right. But I think that still relates to the different passions, and people could be afraid to pursue a certain passion.
Right.
Because they're afraid to fail. But who knows, in that quote unquote failure, you could be learning something very valuable that can lead you to something else that you're really going to excel in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just go for it. Like, go for it in patience, and go for it, like, being patient with yourself as well. Because I know personally that's something I struggle with, being patient with myself. Because, yeah, I know. Because I want to do all the things. I want everything to happen all at once, and it doesn't happen that way. So if anyone's out there who feels that way, don't feel that way.
But you've gotten better at it throughout the years.
I have gotten better. I have gotten a lot better. So, rounding out, as I ask everyone at the end of each podcast episode, what is the best thing to you about being an entrepreneur, or where you are in your life?
I think the ability to try different things. Personally, for me, as it comes to my experience, I think it's been being able to try all these different things to kind of narrow it down to really see more of the path that I want to take with all of this. And it's still, I'd be lying to say I've figured it out.
Yeah.
Because I haven't, but I don't think it's something I ever will completely figure out, because I know over time my feelings towards things are going to change, and the way I want to go about music is going to change, and the way I want to go about Disney is going to change, and just really everything in a way moving forward. I know there's going to be change, but going along the way, I think the ability to try a lot of different things, especially talking about the music side of things, I feel lucky to love music and be able to play music, and that I've been able to try different things in music over the last 17 years of me being a musician so far.
Yeah.
And I know I'm nowhere near done yet with anything I'm doing in music, and there's a lot that I still want to do.
Yeah.
Which does include a YouTube channel for drumming. I've always wanted to do that, and it's been a work in progress, but I think I have an idea of how I want to go about that, so I'm finally going to make that happen. And I'll announce that whenever that happens.
Yeah.
Because that's something else too at the same time. I'm not so big of a social media person, but it's necessary.
Right.
In a lot of businesses today, it seems like it's such a necessary thing to do, and especially for promoting yourself as a musician. I mean, you got to be on social media. So right now it kind of sounds like I'm completely bashing myself for saying, well, you need to do all this on social media, but I don't do much with social media. I know it's something I got to work on, but I have some ideas of how I want to go about that, and you know, hopefully it works.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a necessary evil in a way. Like I've come to try to find social media to be a point of connection, and it's taken a long way to get there. Yeah. But I mean, everyone is on their own path of learning and developing and growing. So we're all going there. We're all working on it.
Yeah, that's true.
So thanks for joining me today on the podcast, because you'll be editing this later.
I'll be listening to this all the way through before it gets... It's funny, I'm going to be the first viewer. of this podcast. So it's going to be me listening to myself for however long this turns out to be. So that'll be kind of funny hearing my voice.
And editing yourself.
Yeah, editing my voice. Hopefully I keep most of this.
Yeah.
I'm for real though. I'm going to keep probably the whole thing.
Right. So where can everyone find you?
Well, you can find my music page at Brad Plays Music on Instagram. I also have a website that's Brad Plays Music, and that's eventually too, whenever that YouTube channel comes out, which is hopefully soon, it'll also be called Brad Plays Music.
Nice.
So everything is Brad Plays Music.
Awesome.
And also too, if you want to listen in to my editing, keep listening to this podcast.
Yeah. Just keep listening along and you'll hear his work. But yeah, I want to thank you guys so much for listening to today's podcast. And until next time, bye guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening to today's podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you leave a review because that really, really helps us grow the show. If you want to continue to support this podcast, head over to our Patreon from the link in the description or the link in the show notes, where you can sign up for one of 3 tiers where you get exclusive merch, a direct line to me to tell me who I should have on this show, as well as getting to hear and see the podcast days before it releases to the public. I'm so excited for all the other exciting things that I'm going to be sharing with my patrons, and I can't wait to see you there. This podcast is also sponsored by HoneyBook. HoneyBook is an amazing client management service that I've been using for years, and they are absolutely incredible. They are so incredible that they're giving you guys an exclusive deal for 50% off your first year with them. That is a $200 savings, which is so crazy and so amazing. So you guys should head over to the link in the description or the link in the show notes to grab that amazing deal. This podcast is edited and produced by Earbrads. You can find them at Earbrads on Instagram or at earbrads.com. You can find me at Vanessa Jordan Photo on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest. And you can also find me on my YouTube channel, Vanessa Jordan Photography, if you are listening to the podcast version and not watching the YouTube version of this podcast. And you can also find me at VanessaJordanPhotograph.com. And until next time, I cannot wait to create some amazing conversations with you.